Reparation debate competition. But before I begin to share our excitement, I would like to acknowledge our ancestors and the land where the CRR operates. The UWI Mona campus recognizes and declares that the land on which we operate as an institution of higher learning is the original or traditional territory of many peoples. The UWI acknowledges the First Nation comprising the indigenous people who were displaced by the Columbus Project and general European colonization, and the hundreds of Africans who toiled for more than 100 years as enslaved people on the old Papine sugar estate. The UWI recognizes their labor and sacrifices in preserving this land that has enabled the establishment of a university that now provides opportunities for many of their descendants to receive an education that they themselves were denied. Reparation, by definition, is repair for injustice, and the CRR's mandate is to explore and advance the advocacy, education of, and research on reparation while supporting the CARICOM Reparation Commission. And we're pleased to have the CARICOM Reparation Commission represented here today in so many ways through the executive and the secretariat. And so we'll hear from some of these members. Recognizing the wrongs of the past, understanding the need for repair, and progressing beyond underdevelopment and disenfranchisement as a result of historical injustice can take many, many forms. There's a strange consensus, though, that reparation for the trafficking and enslavement of Africans is an argument of the past. And we are here today to say the substance of the debating competition, for example, we will be launching today, is evidence that is a thing of the present and also of the future. But let's take a walk down memory lane. Recognition, justice, and development is a theme for the new UN decade for people of African descent. And time is of the essence, considering what was not achieved in the previous decade. One key area of focus is education. And this is even more critical a consideration when we reflect on the origins of the Moyne Commission and the report produced in respect of education in the Caribbean. And so we're laying some foundation here because I know some of our teachers are online and they will be the ones guiding our students as they go through preparing for this reparation debating competition. The Moyne Report of 1945 highlighted deficits which can be traced back to the plantation system under colonialism. The findings were generally thought to reflect that citizens of the West Indies were overburdened by injustices of the past, which they were carrying along with centuries of neglect. The World Bank report of 2025 highlighted that the secondary education system reveals widening economic gaps and intense social inequality that prove calamitous for achieving solid educational outcomes outside privileged or elite secondary schools. So some 80 years of difference, but the same condition that we are in. What is clear is that the same concerns around educational infrastructure and curriculum from the Moyne Commission's 1945 report reappear in the World Bank's 2025 report. Are we closer to achieving the outcomes in education we need for advancing on regional development? The present is tied up with the past. Legacies of colonial injustices are pervasive as they hamper the advancement of education systems in the region. Now, the CARICOM region has had to react, and the CARICOM 10-point plan for educational programs is identified in item 6 of that 10-point plan. It says CARICOM governments inherited a flawed education system, inadequate schools, high illiteracy, and a system based on structural discrimination. And you will have time to read the rest of that item. In fact, the CARICOM 10-point plan, that document is being revised, and you will have a fulsome appreciation for how that point and others get re-articulated and expanded. But let's take a pause to really consider the repair we must be doing in the context of education. There is consensus that the region is underperforming. And one key initiative has been the attempt to mainstream the idea of repair. We must, in fact, take not a Band-Aid approach that can cover a wound, but we must also take the approach that scars which remain from the past can be systematically approached, wrestled with, and through truth-telling, build solid foundations through education that secure the future of Caribbean youth in particular, and by extension, those within the African diaspora. It is not only instructional and institutional change that are required, but also around values, attitudes, culture, history, heritage, and so much more. The CARICOM Reparation Commission has been engaging in strategic negotiations with allies, leading to the acceptance that the change needed in the education system can only be advanced when the youth are engaged and their voices are heard. So we're going to be trying to answer questions such as, can you apologize for a wrongful act by an ancestor? Should reparations be paid to governments? How do we engage youth on matters of reparatory justice? These must also, in terms of answers, come from the youth who are soon to inherit the task of repair from the forerunners of the reparation movement on both sides of the Atlantic. In order to achieve all of this, the Center for Reparation Research, through strategic attempts at youth engagement, circulated a call for participation through international debate in December 2024. And the response has been nothing less than heartening. The project we are calling Tackling Reparation Together is aimed at mainstreaming reparation from street to stage. And through structured debates among students from 24 schools in the Bahamas, Curacao, Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the United Kingdom, we plan to yield such results to really suggest a new generation of engagement, identity formation, and confidence building. This international debate competition we're launching today extends from the CRR's mission to educate and create accessible avenues for reparation research. It is an expansion of the programming set in progress in 2018. We are now in our 8th decade in terms of the Center for Reparation Research, but in 2018, with the Jamaica Reparation Debate Competition, this idea in terms of debate, this is not new. This happened in Jamaica. It has happened in countries in the Eastern Caribbean. We are very much a debating culture in the region. And so this international reparation debate competition, certainly it stands on the shoulders of those that have come before. This project has advanced significantly with the support of our collaborators, and we want to name them: Jamaica Association of Debating and Empowerment Limited, the Repair Campaign, the PJ Patterson Institute for Africa Caribbean Advocacy, and even the Wilberforce Institute out of Hull University. Since the early 2000s, the CARICOM region has advanced the reparation agenda through bilateral agreements and advocacy. We are now standing to see such amazing support from the United Nations in the form of the 2 international decades for people of African descent and the African Union, of course, as we take a step further by taking reparation to the streets. So this international reparation debate competition that we launched today for secondary schools is one of our most important projects. By engaging secondary level students in structured debates, the initiative will increase advocacy, enhance historical understanding, and promote meaningful conversations, the ones I'm excited to hear about, the ones happening inside the homes when students begin to prepare for debates, and the conversation will extend to parents, to grandmothers, to friends, to the entire villages and the communities. I can tell you that what I am most looking forward to is those conversations about what will take place in the homes. So now it's time to hear from other voices. I'm Sonia Stanley Naya, and I'm pleased to be your moderator today in terms of this event, chairing this event. We are going to hear from other voices, and it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Vereen Shepherd, former director of the Center for Reparation Research. The center is now in its 8th year, And the foundation you see today was built by Professor Shepherd, who will share with us on the importance of the reparation movement in the Caribbean. Over to you, Vereen.
Thank you very much. Respect to our indigenous and African ancestors who toiled on the lands in which so many of us are now located. Thank you again, Dr. Stanley Nair. Greetings, everyone. And I join in the protocols that have been established in the interest of time. I want to start with two verses of a 1940 poem titled Nigger by Jamaica's Una Marson while she lived in the UK. They called me nigger, those little white urchins. They laughed and shouted as I passed along the street. They flung it at me, nigger, nigger, nigger. What made my face go hot? The blood boil in my veins and tears spring to my eyes. What made me go to my room and sob my heart away? Because white urchins called me nigger? Now, this poem reflects the psychological impact of the crimes against humanity in the form of the forced capture and shipment of Africans to the Americas and their chattel enslavement in the region. A glaring legacy was anti-Black racism and the pain of being different, especially in Europe for Black migrants. Apologizing for and making amends through a range of compensatory or reparatory justice programs for colonial wrongs lie at the heart of the reparations movement, which has a long genealogy. Economists like Sir Arthur Lewis and historians and politicians, for example, Sir Ellis Clark, Eric Williams, and those of their generation, called for redress for colonial wrongs from the 1930s and 40s. So did Rastafari, who called for repatriation and resettlement and for burning down Babylon. But the concept, if not the name, had long been supported by enslaved Africans through their resistance activities, including anti-slavery wars, and also by free people who struggled for social justice in the aftermath of the Unjust Emancipation Act. These previous waves of articulation and activism inspired the entry into the movement of civil society actors, scholar activists, individual politicians, CARICOM heads, education institutions, dedicated centers like the CRR, and institutes. Also by national, regional, and diaspora committees and campaigns, and more recently by the UN and its agencies, mechanisms, and programs, descendants of beneficiaries of chattel enslavement, and more recently by the Repair campaign. Together, we have all brought us where we have reached today. Why is it so important for so many people to call for reparations? Why is there now such growing support for reparations for the Caribbean? Why is reparations so important in and for the Caribbean? Because time comes for justice for our ancestors. Because time comes to settle the colonial debt. Time comes for those who committed crimes against our ancestors, who benefited from their labor, who have not taken the continuing harm in terms of repair for our descendants, for the descendants today, seriously enough, or to be held accountable. Time comes for the Caribbean to insist on the right to development, to be compensated for the violence against our ancestors. Time comes to dismiss the argument that grants and loans are part of reparations. And because, as the 2001 Durban Declaration and Program of Action puts it, I quote, historical injustices have undeniably contributed to the poverty, underdevelopment, marginalization, social exclusion, economic disparities, instability, and insecurity that affect many people in different parts of the world, in particular in developing countries, and recognizes the need to develop programs for the social and economic development of these societies and the diaspora within the framework of a new partnership based on the spirit of solidarity and mutual respect. Because, as Langston Hughes said, I tire so of hearing people say, let things take their course. Tomorrow is another day. I do not need my freedom when I'm dead. I cannot live on tomorrow's bread. We have cause. We have a case against those who disturbed, disfigured, and dissed us. And we have a blueprint for demanding justice through the CARICOM 10-point plan. We have the evidence that European governments, including Britain, Spain, France, Portugal, Norway, and the Netherlands, and others, invaded and captured the lands of the region that were occupied by Caribbean civilizations For example, the lands of the Taino and Kalinago. We have evidence that they instructed genocidal actions upon indigenous communities. And as the indigenous peoples declined drastically in numbers, missionaries used racist justification to protect native peoples from enslavement. And Europeans, who opposed white systems of labor, started the capturing and forced relocation of Africans to the Caribbean and became owners and traders of enslaved Africans. They defined and enforced African enslavement and native genocide as in their national interest. They introduced laws that deemed Africans non-human and property. They created the legal, financial, and fiscal policies necessary for the enslavement of Africans. They imposed a system of terror on Africans through the plantation system, using rape and other forms of violence against women and girls, brutally flogging, murdering, dismembering, and exiling men and women. They opposed for decades the efforts to end the African Holocaust and punished severely Africans who resisted through flogging, murder, dismembering, imprisonment, and exile. They disrupted the African family, religious and cultural norms, replacing African names with European ones and even criminalizing cultural practices like opium. They refused compensation to the enslaved with the ending of their enslavement. They compensated enslavers at emancipation for the loss of so-called legal property rights in enslaved Africans. They imposed a further 100 years of racial apartheid upon the emancipated that led to protests that they wore and vox populi. They imposed for another 100 years policies designed to perpetuate suffering upon the emancipated and survivors of genocide, and those imported and indentured to add to the freed African labor force and keep the plantation going. And they have refused to acknowledge such crimes as crimes against humanity, or to compensate victims of their descendants who continue to suffer harm and the legacies of colonialism. In sum, what many have described as immorality, political irresponsibility, and social injustice of European colonizers, who conceived of, capitalized, managed, and benefited from the Manganese or African Holocaust for over 400 years, from the philosophical underpinnings of the movement for reparations in the Caribbean. As a result of this Holocaust and other systems of oppression that it spawned, the lives of millions of indigenous, African, and indentured men and women and children were destroyed in search of profit and benefits by certain European nations. At a conservative estimate, using the findings of my colleague Joseph Ilipori, over 15 million Africans were stolen from their homes and forcibly transported and relocated to the Caribbean as enslaved chattel and property of Europeans, with the 400 years of chattel enslavement. Indeed, for over 400 years, influenced by systemic racist dogma and reflected in the laws drawn up to control those enslaved Africans and their descendants, these Africans and their descendants were classified by Europeans in law as non-human, chattel, property, and real estate. Indeed, the illegal and ignoble persistence of Europe's colonialism in the Caribbean sets this region apart as the most economically exploited and politically dominated part of global modernity. Today, its people face a future that will be shaped and significantly determined by this legacy that includes multiple crimes against humanity. And these crimes are now recognized as the most egregious in recorded history. Crimes against humanity are defined as widespread or systematic attacks directed against a population. It includes a range of offenses such as mass murder, extermination, enslavement, mass deportation, imprisonment, torture, sexual violence, persecution on political, racial, national, ethnic, cultural, religious, and gender grounds, as defined in international law or other universally recognized grounds. The reparation campaign is now a global one, and the stakeholders are varied, whether by country, nationality, ethnic group, class, gender, age group, institutional affiliation, religious beliefs for those who have such beliefs, educational institution, or political alignment. Despite this variety, there is one thing that unites us as advocates, or ideological alignment to the cause of justice for those scarred by the evils of conquest, colonization, white supremacy regimes, and economic and political disenfranchisement. Reparations is a must for such crimes against our ancestors and the continuing harm being experienced by us, their descendants. The Durban Declaration and the first and second UN International Decades of People of African Descent and the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent embrace reparations and the right to development of the victims of the crime against humanity. And so do other UN mechanisms like the one on which I sit, the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And you heard Dr. Stanley Nair say the theme of the first decade, which has been continued and embraced by the second decade. And I'm particularly proud because as chair of the working group of experts on people of African descent, I drafted, along with my colleagues, the program of activities for the international decade, the first international decade. And I see that they have continued the theme that we came up with in the first decade. So outreach to the young people who have joined this movement is critical. I congratulate the schools that have agreed to participate in this international debate competition, which complements the national one held among Jamaican schools and other schools some years ago. And the one in Jamaica was led by the National Council on Reparation, of which I was a member, I'm still a member, and the African Caribbean Institute of Jamaica, and of course, supported by the CR while I was director. I also pointed the school's reparations lecture series held regionally and nationally by the CR in collaboration with the chair of the St. Lucia Reparations Committee, Earl Busquet. So as you, the students, prepare for this competition, I urge you to make use of the material that the CRR, the CRC, local reparation committees, cultural studies scholars, and historians have provided for you, including Introduction to Reparation for Secondary Schools, 20 Questions and Answers on Reparations, Liberties Lost and Freedoms Won, edited by Beckers and Shepherd. Good luck to all of you, and congrats to the Center for Reparation Research for continuing the project of recruiting more young people for JA Army and encouraging education for reparations. In our young people's hands lies the responsibility of using history education, which I regret is not mandatory in the schools, to correct the misinformation that is out there. Because Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who told us that history is a landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. But our leaders are tone deaf. The greatest weapon in our arsenal against colonial narratives is culturally relevant education, especially history education. As you prepare to research, to strategize, and to debate, I leave you with the opening words of Bermudan Kenneth Robinson's book, Heritage. And I quote, "Open the books if you wish to be free." And I will add, find a way to get in the way of those who say, move on and forget it. And it was legal at the time that we must forget the past and move on as friends. Not so. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shepherd. Thank you for reminding us that time come to right the wrongs of history in the form of crimes, mass murder, sexual violence, racial discrimination, and all the atrocities that we know happened under the kind of regime of slavery, colonialism that we're talking about. Indeed, we continue Marcus Garvey's work. We continue the work of those in the Black Power movement. We continue the work of those Rastafari who have consistently called for reparations. We continue the work to right the wrongs of history. I'm left now to call on Miss Lucy Gaffney, Company Director of the Repair Campaign, to give us remarks from one of the collaborators on the project. Lucy?
First of all, it's absolutely a nightmare having to follow Professor Naya and Professor Vereen Shepherd. I mean, guys, everybody listening here, can you imagine how I'm feeling having to follow two phenomenal speakers and two phenomenal spear throwers in this whole world of reparations. So my name is Lucy Gaffney, and I'm a director and a co-founder of the Repair Campaign. I'm joined on this call by two or three colleagues of mine, Brian Royce, and also with Sharon who's here, as Sharon Roper, who's here with me as well, and Franco Carroll. So we're all here as part of the Repair campaign. The Repair campaign was set up in 2022 by Dennis O'Brien, who had started up Digicel, that some of you may be customers of, in Digicel in the Caribbean. And I've been working in the Caribbean for 26 years, as was Dennis. And everywhere we went, people talked about reparations, and we didn't know what it was. And we started doing our own learning. And that I think there's some kind of a circle of life coming back here, really, because I'm 65, okay, and I am now only learning over the last couple of years from such phenomenal people as Maureen Shepherd, from Sir Hilary Beckles, and now lately from Professor Sonia Naya, in terms of the atrocities and the crime against humanity that was transatlantic slavery. I know that there's a new master's that has been developed with the Centre for Reparatory Research and the University of Glasgow. And I think it's the most phenomenal thing to do. And as a mother, okay, so I'm a mother. I don't know how many young people are listening in here today, but I'm a mother of two very argumentative, difficult young women, who 32 and 28. And I can't get away with anything anymore, ever. I can't say anything. And they absolutely argue, and they say, you can't say that, mom, you can't say girl, you have to say woman, and you have to say they and them, and you've no idea. So I know, and I would like to build on something that Maureen Shepherd just said there, that the greatest weapon in terms of the whole fight for reparatory justice is education. And actually, the greatest weapon, I feel, is you. The greatest weapon that there is in this whole fight for reparatory justice is the young people of today. And it's through initiatives that have been so brave and so creative of the Centre for Reparatory Justice that we're so pleased as the Repair campaign to work with, because we are learning as we go along. Just listening to Professor Naya and Professor Shepherd about all of the issues in relation to intergenerational trauma in terms of gender-based violence, we're learning. The Repair campaign are not standing on the shoulders of, we're actually walking alongside, and we're completely allies and advocates, I think is what Professor Naya said. We are advocates for reparatory justice. And I would urge all of you, because look, I know what it's like to be 14, 15, 16 and not care, and you don't care where you've been, and to, in terms of Malcolm X, who said, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And I know that, but this is a real opportunity to make a difference. We're trying to make a difference with the Repair campaign with the greatest of humility across all our social media. And Brian Royce, that is here tonight, has taught me so much about it. I would urge you to follow the Repair campaign. I would urge you to sign our petition, because it's only collectively, all of us, that we will make a difference. Professor Beckles said in one of the first times I met him, he said, Lucy, because I was being apologetic that I was white. I'll be honest, I was being apologetic that I was white. And he said, Lucy, it's all hands on deck, and it doesn't matter what color the hands are. If we all identify that what we're looking at was a crime against humanity that has intergenerational effects on today and all of you. And he said, if we don't all work together, we will never get anywhere. And that's why what has happened today in Barbados, under the direction of Professor Hilary Brown, that I know is going to be speaking in a few moments. And that's why people like that I now are privileged enough to call friends, like Eric Phillips and Hilary Brown, that the influence that they have. And in the last 2 or 3 days, what has happened is that the issue of reparatory justice and reparations was put on an international stage because of the bravery of CARICOM, because of the bravery of the Prime Minister of Grenada, because of the bravery of Ralph Gonsalves and Brown from Cantigua. It is the bravery and calling out what has been an appalling Holocaust, and there is no other word for it. And the bravery of all of those people mean that this is a moment in time. I would really genuinely say that we're in a moment in time. We're in a bit of a tipping point, and the UK and the EU have got to make amends for the ills of the transatlantic slavery. And this initiative by the Center for Reparatory Research is phenomenal. And you know why? Because it's engaging with young people. And it's young people that I believe, okay, are going to be the future of the reparatory justice movement. And I would say, please get involved. I know there's 24 schools are involved. I hope more get involved. I hope more schools in the UK get involved to learn about the UK's role in transatlantic slavery. And I just want to say that I hope this debate spurs a whole new generation of advocates for reparatory justice. And I am, as a mother, and as an ally, extremely privileged to be walking alongside people like Eric Phillips, Vereen Shepherd, Professor Beckles, Professor Naya, Hilary Brown. They are friends of mine now, I think, and I am privileged to be allowed to walk alongside. And the very best of luck to every single school. And if you're anything like my two argumentative's daughter, this is going to be a phenomenal competition. So the best of luck. Thank you on behalf of the Repair Campaign.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I want to thank you for highlighting the bravery of our people, the bravery of our leaders. And we need so much more courage, especially from our youth, who must insist on repair. Indeed, our intention is to definitely spawn new generations of advocates. So now it's my pleasure to call on Dr. Hilary Brown, Program Manager for Culture in the Directorate of Human and Social Development within the Secretariat of CARICOM, to bring us remarks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Sonia Stanley Nair, a longtime collaborator in many things, many movements. It is really a pleasure to add my words of congratulations to you and your team at the Center for Reparation Research for this really very excellent initiative that will help to drive research and advocacy and engagement of young people across this region and in the United Kingdom in a rapidly growing global movement for reparatory justice. And I really have to greet Professor Shepherd, who I've worked with in the Reparations Commission, and Eric Phillips, and Lucy Gaffney and the repair team. And as she rightly said, it is all hands on deck in much the same way that the enslaved people fought for their freedom, but also had the collaboration and the support of other persons in the UK and even in the region. It is the same way that to bring about reparatory justice, we all have to contribute and work with like-minded people. So let me also say congratulations to all of the schools and students and teachers who are taking up this challenge of participating in this international reparations debating competition. I'm really pleased to have been asked to give these brief remarks on behalf of the CARICOM Secretariat and the CARICOM Reparations Commission, both of which are really delighted to be associated with this debate. The CARICOM Reparations Commission was established in 2013 by the CARICOM heads of government to conduct research, advocate for, and advise on the payment of reparations to the people of the region for the crimes against humanity that Professor Shepherd has so ably and eloquently recapped for us. The over 400 years of European inflicted genocide on the indigenous people of the Caribbean and the trade in enslaved Africans, and not to mention a brutal system of chattel enslavement in the Caribbean. And I think it's important, and I think Professor Shepherd captured it in her presentation, that we now have the strong advocacy and support of the heads of government. And reparations is an item that recurs on the heads of government agenda. And that was what Lucy was referring to, that our heads of government are meeting right now in Barbados and reparations is on the agenda. They treat it as one of the paramount and important issues that has their direct oversight. And so there's a prime ministerial subcommittee on reparations that is chaired by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, who gives the overall oversight of the reparations agenda for the region. So we have to appreciate that, yes, we have now the support, the leadership of our heads of government, but they are building on the work of our civil society that has championed this, our musicians, our Pan-Africanists, Rastafari, they have been the ones who have kept that consciousness alive for us in our hearts, that we have always felt that there was an injustice that has never been dealt with. And so we really pay respect to all of those Pan-Africanists and Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and all of the musicians that have always reminded us of the days of slavery and what that has done to our people. So for the past 11 years, the CARICOM Reparations Commission has built a global movement for reparatory justice, calling on the former colonizing nations of Europe to apologize, to make amends, to pay reparations, and to acknowledge the need for social and economic justice, dismantling structural racism, and the other legacies of this dark period of history. And these legacies have retarded the development of the Caribbean and made it difficult for the people of the region, for our young people, to be the successful global citizens that we know we all are. So the Commission has conducted many symposia, many public lectures and press conferences, and produced publications in collaboration with the Center for Reparation Research to increase knowledge and understanding about why we are calling for reparations. And so some of that work will be at your disposal as you prepare for this competition. We also had a series of youth rallies and a baton relay with a specially carved reparations baton, and we did that in 6 countries in the region between 2016 and 2018. And we are slowly seeing the fruits of our labor. So we now see apologies coming in from universities and private corporations and prominent families in the UK. We have seen a halfway apology from the Dutch government and from the Church of England, but we're making progress. The Commission has and continues to advocate for the observance of Emancipation Day in all member states, because not all of our countries do, and the teaching of history as a compulsory subject in Caribbean secondary schools up to grade 11, as Prof. Shepard alluded to, as well as the implementation of a regional renaming project where the streets and monuments and parks and other public spaces bearing the names that reflect our colonial legacy should be renamed and removed. We still have too many statues of Columbus and too many parks named after Queen Victoria, and Trafalgar Square and Trafalgar Road all over this region. And the CARICOM Reparations Commission has been calling for the renaming of these emblems to colonialism and to our oppressors. So it's really exciting, though, to have a regional stroke international debating competition. And I'm looking forward to your participation as you construct your arguments for and against, remembering that the 10-point plan for reparatory justice is our guiding framework for the areas in which we are demanding compensation. It is fantastic that we have these 24 entrants in the competition, and it is really special to have a school from the UK entering as well. because we certainly want to impact the public opinion and awareness in Europe. So it's fantastic to have the United Kingdom participating as well. I've worked in youth development for many years in CARICOM, and we have a saying that we always say, which is, there is no mass movement that isn't a youth movement. No mass movement that isn't a youth movement. And we certainly want reparations to be a mass movement. And so this is a wonderful step towards bringing more young people on board and becoming new advocates for reparatory justice. So welcome everyone to the global reparations movement, and good luck as you prepare for the debate. I really hope that you will enjoy the process of learning while you are using your debating skills to bring attention to this important call for justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown. The task is indeed making reparation a mass movement. We are all indebted to the CARICOM Reparations Commission, and we are pleased to have your voice in this event. Thank you also for reminding us that there are several platforms for repair, and symbolic decolonization is one of them. So the renaming project, thank you so much for reminding us about that. And I'll see how our students include this kind of breakdown in the debates. All right, so the structure of the competition, something we're all looking forward to hearing about. Mr. Ravon Thomas Matthews, the Special Projects Manager at the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment Limited, is going to share this with us. Over to you, Ravon.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I must say I am truly blown away by the passion and caliber of individuals that we see here and all the wonderful things that we've been hearing so far. I want to thank, of course, everyone who was so instrumental in putting this event together, all of the collaborators for this competition, Dr. Stanley Naya, Professor Vereen Shepard from the past director of CRR, Ms. Lucy Gaffney from the Repair Campaign, Dr. Hilary Brown from CARICOM, and I know I might have left out one or two individuals because the cast is impressive, yes? So, allow me to introduce myself and the organization that I work for. I am Ravon Thomas Matthews, two last names. I serve as the Special Projects Manager for the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment. Long name, JADE for short, right? And of course, I want to tender apologies for the absence of our founder and executive director, Mr. Jermaine Barrett, who has so graciously shown confidence in me filling in his stead. Big shoes to fill, but I will try my absolute best. So the first thing, and I know that I won't be long, as time is something that we want to conserve upon, right? So the first thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about JADE. The Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment is a non-profit organization whose mission is spreading the joys and wonders of debating and all the wonderful things that debating can accomplish. Yes, we, like I said, are non-profit, so we're not doing this for fun, we're doing it for the passion of the particular thing. We care about it, and we believe that debating is one of, and this might sound a little bit biased because we are debaters, but it's probably the most impactful tool for critical analysis and learning and compassion and conflict management. And so we're very happy to be partnering with our different sponsors, collaborators, to bring this competition about. So first thing, let's get the elephant out of the room. We are the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment. We are a Jamaican-based organization. However, we have contacts and linkages and influence across the Caribbean, across the entire international community. Now, it does then beg the question, we have more than Jamaican schools in the competition. Yes, we have schools from Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago and the UK. And so the question of impartiality comes to mind. But I want to assure you that the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment has within its ranks what we call A-rank adjudicators, individuals who have been invited to judge at the highest level of competitive debating in the entire world. That's the World University of Debating Competition Championship, right? WUDC, where all of the big schools, the Harvard, the Oxford, all of those, the top institutions gather to have a real rigorous debating competition. And Jade has, without failure, been invited to field adjudicators to that competition. Recently, we concluded a 2025 Worlds in Panama, in which Jermaine Barrett, founder and executive director, was invited to judge, and which myself, Ravon Thomas Matthews, I was also invited to judge at the highest level of debating. What does that mean? It means that internationally, Jade judges are seen to have a deep level of caliber and experience when it comes to administrating and judging debates. This means that even though we are a Jamaican organization, if a Jamaican team does not do well in a debate, we will tell them explicitly such, and they will lose this match because our reputation is at stake for being unbiased administrators. And quite frankly, we want to ensure that we enrich and engender real, robust, fruitful conversations coming out of this particular event. All right. And of course, if there are any other concerns, you can look us up online at myjade.org or feel free to reach out to myself or Jermaine. All right. So with that said, let's get into what I was actually supposed to do, which is to explain the Jade parliamentary debate format. This is the format of the debate competition, right? So first things first, we're going to be having two teams in any one match, a proposition team and an opposition team. Makes sense so far? Pretty intuitive, right? The proposition team consists of 3 speakers. The opposition team consists of 3 speakers, right? So at any given point in time, there will be 3 people debating on either side. No. Does that mean that there are only 3 persons per team? No, because a team consists of 5 members. 2 of those members we consider to be reserve members. Those individuals can help out with research and analysis, and you can debate amongst yourselves to ensure that you're getting the best, juiciest, most fruitful and impactful arguments. And indeed, you can sub out any of your 5 debaters at any given point in the competition. Yes, so for round 1, if you have 3 debaters, John, Mary, and Tom, but for round 2, you want to somehow tub for Clarice, that is absolutely something you can do, as long as Clarice was included in that initial host of 5 speakers, right? So a team, 5 members each, a debating squad, which is going to be who is actively debating on any match day, 3 individuals. Clear so far? All right, wonderful. So proposition, opposition. The first speaker of the debate is going to come to us from the proposition team. Yes, the government team. We call that person the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is going to come and speak for 7 minutes. After the Prime Minister has spoken and sat down, the opposition leader is going to come and speak for 7 minutes. After those first speakers from each side have spoken, then we're going to enter into a period of cross-examination. Yes? In this first period of cross-examination, what we're going to see is the opposition team asking 3 questions of the government team, right? Questions can last no more than 10 seconds, answers can last 30 seconds. So the opposition team is going to ask a question of the government team. The government team is going to respond to that question. They're going to clap back. They're going to completely assess the motive behind the question and respond in a way that shows that they are thought experts on the matter, that they know what they're talking about, right, government? Right. Then that will continue for 3 questions, opposition, government. Right. After that, government is now going to take some revenge on opposition for posing 3 really intense and hard questions. And in so doing, government is going to pose 3 questions to opposition. Now, opposition is going to, with their broad backs and superior intellect, answer the questions provided by government in a way that shows that they too know what they're talking about. And in fact, they know even more than the opposition. And that will last for 3 minutes. Yes? So In that first period of cross-examination, opposition asks questions to government, government answers. Then government asks questions to opposition, and opposition answers. After that first period of cross-examination, we're going to have the Deputy Prime Minister from the government. That's the third speech in the debate, and the second speech coming out from the proposing or government team. Deputy Prime Minister, you have 6 minutes to present your case, after which the Deputy Opposition Leader will come and present their case within 6 minutes. Then the debate pauses for a second. We enter into another period of cross-examination. Very likely something that the Deputy Prime Minister or the Deputy Opposition Leader said necessitates some sort of questioning. Yes? And so we're going to engage in a second period of cross-examination. In the same way, opposition will ask questions of the government, 3 questions. Government will respond to those 3 questions from opposition, and then we flip it on the head where government asks those questions of opposition, opposition responds, right? Then we move into the final 2 speakers of the debate. We have from the proposition or government team, the government speaker, yes, the government reply speaker, who is going to summarize the debate, answer all the loose threads, tie them up real nicely, and tell us why their government has won the debate. They will do that for 5 minutes. And to conclude the debate, the opposition reply speaker is going to tell us why the government is wrong and why opposition has won this debate, and provide a fulsome reply to the argument that came out from the government. And that would conclude the debate, right? So, fun, dynamic debate format, the Jade parliamentary format. We're only going to be focusing on the first slide for today, which is the structure of the competition, right? So really robust and fun competition, fun format. And what this format will do, as you realize, is that there will be multiple periods outside of your regular points of information. Don't worry, some of these terms seem a little bit technical. We're going to have training where we go over this in far more detail. But yes, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is how this competition is going to be run, right? We'll have preliminary rounds following training, heading into a period of knockout, crowning our regional champion, moving on finally to the international champion. All right. So don't worry if you didn't get everything. This is just for a general overview, and you'll be getting far more impactful and deep insight during the training sessions. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a wonderful time being here. Again, I am Ravon Thomas Matthews, representing the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment. Looking forward to seeing you debate.
Thank you so much, Ravon. I know our teachers and our students online are already excited. The format is quite dynamic. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, our students, having prepared, are going to be entirely engaged. So thank you so much for explaining the structure of the competition. And of course, the training, you said, will reveal so much more and have more granular information with more time to share as well with our teachers and students. Now, I'm just pleased to be able to have one of the executive members of the CARICOM Reparation Commission with us, Mr. Eric Phillips, and he's chairman of the Guyana Reparations Committee. He's going to talk to us about the importance of youth in the reparation movement.
Thank you, Chair, Baete, and Jambo, to all participants in this call, to the sponsors, the CRR, teachers and students, and Jambo, to all our distinguished speakers. Last week, I was fortunate to be in Jamaica as a member of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, working on updating the CARICOM 10-point plan. Of course, the competition was hot in the air, and I was so pleased to see that the Center of Reparations Research was excited about this competition and actually asked me to see if we can find additional schools. So congratulations to everyone involved in this competition, and special congratulations to the students involved in this international competition. I've had the fortune of living 7 years in South Africa, 4 years in Brussels and London, And of course, being born in Guyana and being an American citizen, you can say I have lived the legacies of the triangular slave trade. And this trade was not just in captive Africans, but that trade damaged indigenous people. There was indigenous genocide across many countries. So why is it important for youth to be involved in the reparation movement? Let me first say that reparations are the moral, political, economic, cultural, religious, psychological, diplomatic, and financial crisis of our times in the Caribbean. Many of our problems are caught up in the legacies of slavery and indigenous genocide. The legacies of slavery are many. Slavery, to me, was the first nuclear bomb the world has ever known. Yes, the first nuclear bomb. And racism, one of its more pervasive legacies, to me, is the second nuclear bomb, which was launched against Africa and people of African descent and people of indigenous descent. So why do we need our youth to be involved in the reparations movement? Well, as Marcus Garvey stated, a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Being involved in the reparations movement is critical to youth if one is to know their history so that they can understand why their societies are functioning as they are today. The history of Europe is intertwined with the history of the Caribbean, with the history of the USA, with the history of Latin America, and with the history of Africa. Brazil is what it is today because it received the largest number of enslaved Africans and was the last country to grant emancipation in 1888. And most of us may not know that Brazil has over 100 million people of African descent just next door to us in the Caribbean. Why do young people need to be involved in the reparations movement? Clearly, the future of the countries we live in are dependent on the current situation that exists today in our countries. And these current conditions were created by the past, including indigenous genocide, African enslavement, indentureship, and colonization. Why should young people be involved in the reparations movement? 2 words: climate change, which will impact another 2 words: food security, which will impact poverty, which will impact sustainable development. And these will determine if we have tolerance for each other in the future, or if authoritarian governments or racism will prevail, or whether partnerships will prevail, as countries strive to take care of their citizens first. We saw this during the COVID-19 pandemic. You need to know your history to understand those dynamics. Being involved in reparations is about seeking justice, seeking a way to reduce inequalities in our own countries and then in the broader world. It's about seeking a more peaceful and balanced world, where global problems are solved in partnerships, not in isolation. Finally, the world has been built by young people. Yes, that's why you're important. You're the center of enslavement, you're in the center of indigenous genocide, and most enslaved Africans were in the prime of their youth. So were most indentured servants. And the greatest changes in the world were made by people in their youth, like Martin Luther King, like Rosa Parks. I believe the sponsors are hoping this competition will allow our youth to gain knowledge about the past so that as young people, you'll be able to make better decisions in the future and make our companies, our countries, better places. You know, there's a famous statement: when 2 brothers fight, the foreigner takes the wealth. There's another statement, an African proverb: we stand on the shoulders of each other. So I hope this competition will allow all of our youth not only to learn about their history, but to seek further knowledge and to understand how their past history of their ancestors and how their current living conditions are intertwined. And I look forward to seeing incredible debates. I am also an alumnus of Queen's College, one of the schools participating. So I wish them special luck, but I wish all of you the best of everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Phillips. We are hearing the bias, but we are also hearing the congratulations, the good luck to all our schools. Slavery was the first nuclear bomb. Profound words which I know our students will not forget. Indeed, we are seeking a more balanced, a more just world, and our young people are the wings on which we will realize that world of the future. Thank you so much. All right, so one of the things we've all been waiting for, the presentation of the schools. And I'm going to ask Mr. Brian Royce and Miss Sharon Roper to take us through, Mrs. Roper, to take us through this from the Repair campaign.
Thank you, Professor Stanley, and good afternoon, everyone. And protocols have been observed. I just want to say how excited we are to be here for the launch of this competition. So thank you, everyone, for joining for the media launch. Before we roll, I hand over to Brian to actually present the participating schools. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the Center for Reparations Research, the team. Brian and I have been working alongside the team in pulling this together. I think this is an amazing opportunity for our young people. It's such an important conversation, particularly now. I also wanted to say, in just understanding me, you hear my British accent. I'm actually a Jamaican that was educated overseas. And about your age, the students who are participating, I got in trouble because I was reading Malcolm X inside my English literature book and was discovered, because even then we know that we need to understand stories about people that look like us. So the fact that so many of you young people have registered, and the teachers, we spoke to the teachers this week, were so encouraged by your enthusiasm and your passion for wanting to enter this debate. It is so important. It's just at the core of who we are, that we need to understand where we come from, understand our true history, and having a debate competition on this particular topic is such an important milestone in, and I know we've done similar things before, but to have it on a regional basis where we included a school from the UK, we hope to get some more before the end of the competition, to have a real conversation about repair. And the fact that our young people were so articulate with their presentations, we actually released the invitation for schools over the Christmas period via social media, because that's where I know everybody, or you guys, hang out. And we were so impressed with the response. It really was just on social media to start with, and the response is really great. The conversations are happening on social media. We're seeing it on our own platform and on in the digital space, and that's really spreading the word and galvanizing. So as I hand over to Brian, I just want to congratulate you, to continue to push, congratulate you for registering, continue to push for more opportunities like this with your teachers, with your education ministers, to push to make history, our history, mandatory for the whole of high school, and it's not a choice, and to ensure that we keep educating our young people, because you are the future of us and are the Caribbean's a sustainable future. So congratulations, everybody. I hand over to Brian to unveil the participants.
Thank you, Sharon, and very articulately said. I couldn't say it better myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Royce. On behalf of the Repair campaign, I'm going to be playing a short little montage video right now. And just want to really quickly echo Sharon's sentiments that we were so impressed by the creativity that went into these videos, and are very much looking forward to the quality of debate that will flow from this. So without further ado, I will play the video and be back in a few minutes.
Get ready, as we are about to introduce the fierce debaters from schools not only across the region, but internationally, ready to showcase their skills in this reparation debating competition.
Breaking news! After a decade-long battle fought by the CARICOM Reparations Commission against the European powers, the people have finally got it.
I am Tonian Anderson, a sixth form student of the Cartier College, and I am ready to settle the debt of history.
Reparations are not just about righting the wrongs of the past.
We are St. Joseph's Convent, Florida, Spain. When you look at us 5 girls, what do you see? all coming from different ways of life and backgrounds. However, we are all converged here in this moment, not by chance, but from a series of intricate and purposeful decisions.
Reparation matters because it adheres to international and legal laws, such as the rights of the victim.
We are representing the Old Child High School.
Reparations matters to us because it holds past oppressors accountable for their actions while also shows their willingness to correct these past grievances.
We are Form 6 students and debate champions at Parkwood Secondary School in Trinidad and Tobago.
The Caribbean is unified by shared experience of European colonial dominance, exploitation, and underdevelopment of our nations.
We are your High. As direct descendants of African enslaved people, as well as other groups affected by European colonization,
it is imperative that issues regarding the post-colonist Caribbean and in the diaspora is sufficiently addressed.
We attend Queen's College, a 180-year-old institution
that benefited from and was built on the premises of slavery.
Reparation is defined as a compensation paid by a defeated state to another. However, to us, reparation is more than a mere monetary compensation.
Slavery has left a lasting impact on the Caribbean, including Curaçao.
Curaçao is since July 2024 a CARICOM associate member. Reparations help us learn from the past and build a brighter future.
Good day everyone, my name is Shana Kimball, is the first speaker of this house, and we are here to firmly affirm the mood that Clarendon College should be selected to be a part of the International Reparation debate.
We believe reparations are important because they are there to acknowledge and repair consequences of human rights violations and equality.
Reparation means recognizing the traumas put into the psyche and structural arrangements through slavery and colonization territories, which inflicted not only individual injuries, but inequality on their subject populations.
The reparations are important to us. Slavery is a massive part of history,
and we can't leave it just because it happened in the past.
Reparations matter because they're more than payments. They are about restoring dignity, recognizing history, and rewriting future.
Be like justice for slavery's legacy of poverty and inequality, offering resources for progress.
Reparations can bridge the gaps caused by history, creating opportunities for growth. It isn't just about arguments, but fostering solutions that lead to progress.
My name is Deshaun Brown, and I'm a logistic student of the Magazine High School.
And we are here to take our spot in the reparation debating competition.
Your Honor, descendants of the victims of chattel enslavement seek reparation for the crimes committed against them. Abu Onyet Terry Nao.
We, the students of the great C.B. Bethel Senior High School,
has found deep connection and understanding pertaining to reparation. Our school is socially involved
and carry many different ethnicities which can be part of the nation.
I'm Danielia, here to show the world that Bishop Gibson is known for excellence, passion, and brilliance. Reparations matter to us because it's about honoring the difficulties our ancestors had to go through whilst ensuring fairness for future generations. Bishop Gibson High School for reparations, justice, and change.
Did you spot your school? Are you feeling the anticipation like we are? Well, stay tuned. It's only just begun.
All right. Did you spot your school? I just want to pause and give a special round of applause to everybody who submitted a video there. So wherever you are across the world, I'm envisioning a round of applause taking place right now. Clap yourselves. Again, welcome to the competition. You, as our director Lucy said earlier, you are the reason that we are here. And we firmly believe that you are the key to handing off the baton to the next generation. So we eagerly await engaging with what you have to say. And in the days and weeks leading up to the actual rounds of the competition, we are asking you to please engage with us on social media. At Repair Campaign is where you can find us. CRR_UWI is the Center for Reparation Research. And as well as Jade, we are asking, the students, we know that you live on these sites and you're native on the Instagrams and the TikToks. We'd love to engage with you so we can promote your voices. So that being said, I'll hand back over to chair of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I want to just echo my own words of congratulations to all the entrants, the schools that have entered. I know you are now feeling even more excited. I'm looking forward to the debates, and I'm only left to say a few words about the prizes that we have in store for you. We will reveal more and more and more information as time goes by in relation to these prizes. So there are, of course, grand prizes, the Champion Team Award, which will include a trophy as well as a scholarship award. There'll be a Regional Champion Award, a UK Champion Award, the Runner-Up Team Award, Third Place Team Award as well. And of course, there will be a number of individual awards, the grand final, so for best debater in the grand final, the regional best debater, the UK's best debater, best researcher award, and that will go, of course, to a team or a member of a team, best rebuttal speaker, most persuasive speaker throughout the competition, as well as special awards where we will award prizes on the basis of cultural heritage advocacy, and also a People's Choice Award, a Young Visionary Award, Most Involved School, and of course, there will be an award for teachers. There will be a Teachers Award, among other prizes. Now, as time goes by, we will reveal so much more about those prizes, but rest assured, we're going to recognize every aspect of the competition and be able to make you know that the center, the team, recognizes the achievements of our young people and our teachers. So once again, congratulations to all our entrants. We are absolutely looking forward to the debate. I'm only left to thank each of our presenters. I want to thank Professor Vereen Shepherd, Miss Lucy Gaffney, Dr. Hilary Brown, Mr. Ravon Thomas Matthews, Mr. Eric Phillips, Mrs. Sharon Roper, and Mr. Brian Royce for their role in this launch this evening. Consider the debating competition launched. We are, of course, wanting to thank our partners, the Repair Campaign, the PJ Patterson Center Institute for Africa-Caribbean Advocacy. We also have on board CARICOM, the Wilberforce Institute at Hull University. We are very grateful for the support that we're getting from our partners and collaborators. I want to remind you to follow the Center for Reparation Research online at CRR_UWI on Instagram. Stay tuned via our Sankofa newsletter. I want to thank the CRR team that has worked hard to pull this event together. Miss Mia McMorris, our junior research fellow in the center, and Miss Tricia Osborne, our admin assistant. And I want to also say a special thanks to the Repair team for their work side by side as we engaged on bringing this competition to life. Some of the social media amplification that we've done, for example, many of the digital assets that you've seen used throughout this launch. And previously, as we shared the competition online, much of that work has been collaborative with the Repair Campaign. Thank you all. We see you online again for another CRR event. We are looking forward to the debate. Encourage everyone to join the debate. Thank you so much all.